Okay, so this is our beginning of the year SameGoal Refresher. So some of you have been in the system for several years. Some of you, this might have been your first complete year into the system, but now all of our districts are in SameGoal. So all TCCSA districts are using SameGoal, and it makes it easy for the admins who need to transfer documents and so forth. So welcome everyone. I will try to keep an eye on the chat for those of you that are on Zoom. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. So we are going to kind of go through, and I know there's some of you that are very new to the system. I know some of you have been in the system, some of you are admins. So we have a wide range of users in here. But kind of what I want to talk about are things that I see throughout the year or things that we need to prepare for the beginning of the year that we don't do, you know, throughout the year. So this is kind of a one time a year deal. So can somebody on Zoom just make sure that you are seeing my screen? That would be helpful. Bless you. I am sharing a demo database, so this is all jumbled students. So what you're seeing is not live students. It's none of our specific districts. So give me 1 second. And I know some people are on the computers, not on their laptops. So is everybody in? Should be the same.
You only have said access.
Okay, I need another human being. Everybody else, and I know on your laptops, you guys are in. You're in, oh, not in, okay.
I don't think you should have admin.
Okay.
You don't need to run a
Are you Melissa?
Yeah.
Okay. So, go into.
I'll ask Lori when she can, I can change it.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I'm
I
just
She had admin access, but I don't think she had admin access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure.
district search.
Even though this is refresh, it's like, oh, just go ahead and go. Okay, no,
There you go.
Yeah.
maybe someday it'll like.
I don't even know how she uses it.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Now the main one is Lynn. And that's how we furniture works. Like, I don't do process.
You don't do, well, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and I get that. That makes total sense to me.
I'm assuming everyone online is logged in since you are probably at your own computer. We're getting a few people here signed in because they're not using their district computer, so we're searching for it. So give us 1 second. Did you set your password yesterday? You got your account? No. Okay, so you're going to have to go into your email. So you should have got an email from SameGoal yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay, so let me. I don't know what just happened, but everybody just popped in from Zoom, so. Welcome everyone on Zoom. Okay, give me just 1 second. Give me a second, I'll get you reset. I'm resetting a few passwords for new users, so give me 1 second, everyone.
Are you in that same folder? Well, where do they put the unemployment? In the Buster House? Not there yet.
No, you can't get into your email though, right? Is that what you said? The Google Mail?
Yeah, I could try.
It's, yeah, because I can't, if I send you a password reset, it's gonna go to your email.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Now I'm ready. Okay. So, a few things that we're going to go through. So, those of you that started in the system this year, your recent probably filled up throughout the year. Those of you that have been in for a couple years, this doesn't reset. The recent just keeps populating as you are opening documents, as you are working on documents. So you can see, you know, it gets longer and longer as you work in the system more. If you have a small caseload, so maybe you only have a few kids, your list might be a little shorter than somebody else that, you know, might work with the entire 8th grade students, or maybe you're working with WEPs and WAPs, so you have a lot of students that you're dealing with. This is populated by any time you open a document. It's not based when you look at a student or click on a student. It is when you actually click on the document and open it. So if I am looking for a student, so here's Cole. If I click on Cole, I can see all the documents that are available. But if I look in my recent, Cole is not going to be there because I have not actually opened anything yet. If I go into Cole and I'm like, well, you know what, I need to start working on his progress report, I can star his progress report. It is going to populate his name in my student list. He will also populate in my caseload, but that document has not populated in my recent yet because I have not opened it. So as you are creating your caseload for this coming school year, you might also want to remember to say, okay, I'm going to be working on that progress report. Don't just star it so he populates here, but also click on it. You don't have to make any changes to it. You just have to open it. Now, once I go back to my recent, now Cole is here and his progress report is open. Okay, so that's how that recent tab populates. And as you are working with your different students, as you are clicking on things, you know, they're going to just keep regenerating based on chronological order when you're opening things. Okay, so it's nothing that you can organize. It's nothing that you can reset, remove. It is just there based on the time that you opened it. So right now, as we are talking, and I'm in the demo, so I can't show you this feature. Let me go back here. Right now, when you go to your district or you're in your district, all your students are going to have a little silhouette next to them. So that little silhouette is going to say pre-enrolled. All of the students have populated from student information. So as those students have enrolled over the summer, integration turned on and those students flowed into SameGoal. So they should be here. But school hasn't started yet. So right now, SameGoal is looking at every student as a pre-enrolled student until the start of school. So after the first day of school, those little silhouettes should disappear, except for some of our kids that have graduated, have withdrawn. They are no longer a part of the school. They will not disappear from your recent, okay, but they will disappear from the student list. Okay, so you'll see, I don't see any of those withdrawn students here. If I wanted to search for a student that I know is gone, I would have to click on the inactive. Okay, so I'm going to select inactive and I'm going to search. Here are all my inactive students that have last names that begin with G. Okay, if I do not check that, and I just leave the G there and I hit search, you can only see the active students, or you will also see your pre-enrolled. So your pre-enrolled are considered active students, but you can see the difference between checking that. So our seniors have not been removed from the system. They are just considered inactive. So you know what happens, you know, a month or two after school starts and for some reason you got to go back to those seniors and find their IEP. You're going to search for that inactive. Okay. Okay, so our caseload. So this is something that is set by you. Typically, your, I was going to say tech coordinator. I got to get my brain thinking the other way. Your SPED director is not going to create your caseload. You will probably create the caseload yourself. Okay, so there's two ways that you can create your caseload. Okay, one is you specific. So, for example, I just added Cole. Okay, so Cole is my new student for the year. I'm going to be working with him throughout the year. So next, I am no longer going to be working with Gavin. So you can see that I had his IEP and I had his progress report, but he is no longer going to be on my caseload. So maybe he moved from the elementary to the middle school to high school, or even just grade levels, depending on how you guys have things set up. So two things that depending, and again, every district is a little bit different, so always talk to your SPED director, okay? And I know several districts have new SPED directors, so please talk to them in the process that they want. So if I am working with Gavin, I'm going to open up his document. Once I'm in his document, I'm going to click on the share in the upper right corner. So this is going to tell me who the owner of the document is and who else can see it. So I can see I am the owner and Rebecca can just edit. So if I am giving this document away, I no longer want to be the owner of it because maybe Gavin has moved to the high school. I can change ownership. So maybe I want to change ownership to someone else. So I'm going to find whoever is the new person. I am going to switch them to the owner, and then I'm going to remove myself as owner. Only if you are the owner of the document, I should say ISs. Only if you are the owner of the document can you do this. Of course, my admin people can automatically do this with whoever. An IS can only change ownership from themselves. You can't say, well, I want somebody else's to be the owner of it. You can't do that, only if you're the owner. Once I remove myself, then I'm gonna hit save. Okay, so I am no longer the owner. If I go back into share, you can see now I am gone from this. I am in as admin, so that's why it's a little bit different. But you can see Amanda is the owner, Rebecca can still edit. But I still have Gavin in my student list. So now I'm not gonna have Gavin any longer. I've changed ownership of that. I would go through the same process of the progress report, but now I can remove the stars. And you see, I'm gonna refresh real quick. You can see Gavin has been removed from my student list and Gavin is no longer available in my caseload. Now, if Gavin was still in my building, so I said the scenario of going from middle school to high school. If Gavin was still in my building and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I wanted to finish up something on his progress report. I can search for him and I still have access to those documents as long as you have access to that building. Okay, so it's based on the buildings and what roles you have. Okay, so that's one way to kind of clean up your caseload. I always suggest, so for example, maybe Cole has a new progress report. Don't just unstar it right away because now you're removing him. Click on his name and find the new documents. So maybe it's this one. And again, I'm working with demo stuff that all kinds of people have made. Some of these kids have every single document available. So, but now that I've selected my new one, I can unstar this. So now he remains in my caseload. Right? But now it's showing me his weekly progress monitoring. Okay. Again, the stars are individual to each user. Okay, so they're not, you know, somebody else isn't doing those. Except, there's always that but an admin can actually create a caseload for you. So if you're like, well, how did that person show up? So just like I showed you earlier with Gavin, if your SPED coordinator wants to give you somebody, or for example, an intervention specialist wants a related service person to have access to somebody. As soon as I share a document, so if I want to share this with the school psych, if I click on share, I can add somebody's name here. Okay, so I'm going to find Rebecca, and now I can give her either edit access or view access, or if I made a mistake, I can remove her. But once I hit save on her screen, that student is going to be starred and populate in my student list. So if you see students popping up, somebody is adding you to the share. So that's the only way somebody can populate a caseload for you without you starring and unstarring students. Okay? Any questions with that? Yes.
The sharing happens at the document level, not
Yes.
the student level?
Correct.
Okay.
So yes. So for example, if you have Kylie here, you would probably want to share both of these with somebody. So if you are in the individual document, the share is here. If you have multiple documents, you can either do it from your caseload screen by selecting both, or if you are at the student level, I can select both, share, and then it changes wording. It is called Update Collaborator. And then it'll say, okay, well, now who does it go to? And you can see that it says varies because I might be the owner of one document and, you know, maybe Angela can view one but edit another. So you want to make sure that you're giving them the right access to those documents. So that's the only way you can do multiple documents at one time. And again, that's by checking, share, update, collaborator. I know, it's just different wording. Okay. Looking at our all tab, or our all screen. So this, again, is based on the students that you have access to, whether it is a building, and you can search for students and see all documents. Maybe you have view-only access to some documents. Maybe you're only allowed to see documents that you've created. Okay, so and again, I know I have from, you know, your typical user all the way up to our admins in here. Admins are going to see every student, every document. I don't really have a teacher account to show you guys this, but so you might only see 10 kids because you're only working with those 10 kids and you've created progress reports for them. So based on how your SPED director has set things up, you might only see those 10 kids here. Your SPED director might say, hey, I'm allowing you to view any IEP in the middle school. So you would see all middle school students, all IEPs. So this screen is going to look a little bit different for everybody. Over the course of the year, they have added 2 new features to the screen. So that's kind of why I wanted to come here. So again, every district is a little bit different what you get to see. But looking at this, we've always had our ability to show completed documents, incompleted documents, and so forth. They have added the ability to filter out by a specific document or form. Okay, so this is nice. I've been using this a ton, especially working with our districts, but I can clear out because everything is selected by default. And maybe I am just looking for WEPs. Okay, so maybe I'm new to writing WEPs for the gifted. I want to see all of my students' previous WEPs, so I'm going to click OK. And now it's going to filter out only students that have WEPs. Maybe I am the school psych, so I want to look at the ETRs. And so I'm just going to check ETR. I'm going to click OK, and now all my ETRs are listed. So to me, I think that's a nice feature. You can do multiple filters. So if I want to look at my IEPs and I want to see which ones are incomplete, why is it not clearing up? Oh, thank you. Okay, so now it's showing my incomplete. Oh, I must still have ETR selected too, but it's showing anything that's incomplete. So it populates that list. So again, you can have multiple filters. The other thing, and then I'm going to go back to show all, and then you can say select all, and that brings everything back. The other thing, and this would be good for my related service people and or admins, if you want to see by building. So this is the demo database, so no district has this many buildings. But if I wanted to see just students at Brown Elementary or documents at Brown Elementary, I can click on that and it's going to populate just those students. Okay. So that's a nice feature if you are working in multiple buildings. And it's hard to tell with the demo what's changing and not changing. You can also look by dates. So if you have, a certain date range that you want to look at documents, I'm not sure exactly what's in here, so we'll see. Okay. So that is a document that is dated between June 1st and today. So you can see right here is the meeting date of June 7th. Okay, so Scarlett, Aaron, and then of course the student, because the student has every single document in the world. Okay. For my admin, because I know I have admin in here, if you have a list of students that you want to see their documents, you want to transfer ownership, you know, something like that, you can copy and paste and use student IDs. So if you have a list of multiple students, you can put those in here. I just had to double check my. So once I have multiple numbers in here, and I picked the wrong one. Oh, 1068. And you would just copy and paste. You can copy and paste from a spreadsheet and it'll automatically populate that. So then it's only going to show me those students with those student IDs. And I have one in there. Okay, any questions with the all screen? Okay, let's look at, yes. Sure.
The student numbers, it's just a space between the numbers.
Just a space.
On a multiple list.
Yes, you know, you don't need commas or anything like that, just a space is fine. And don't forget over here on the side, I know not all of our districts are super huge, but you probably see over 50 students, it only shows 50 at a time. And when I'm talking 50, not 50 students, 50 documents on a page. So, you know, if you're working at the high school level, some of our kids have quite a few documents in the system. So you might only see, in this case, because Jonathan has, like I said, every single document available, you know, we're only seeing 2 kids at once. So use these arrows to navigate. You can filter from here, but you can't change it from alphabetical order. It's always going to show the screen students in alphabetical order, okay? And then the documents are just listed chronologically based on creation, okay? Deadlines. So deadlines, there's 2 views that I want to show you, and now that everybody's been in the system for at least a year, this can be more helpful to you because in the past when we had all those uploads, it didn't gather any dates, so it was not helpful. Now when we look at these, and I like looking at a month view, it looks just like a Google Calendar. The only thing that is different from here is it does not allow me to print it. So it's nice to reference and you're like, oh, that's great, I want to put this up on my board. Well, you can't because it doesn't allow you to print. Okay? But what this does is it does show you information. So here's an annual review meeting. It's going to show me, you know, the date, who the student is, who it's assigned to, and information here. Okay? And any of these are links. So if I want to see Whitney, I can just click on Whitney and it takes me into her profile, her deadline. Yes.
And is that off of your caseload?
That is off of your caseload, yes. So we discovered this last year with some of those students that were changing buildings. You know, we were doing training, I want to say, was it right at the end of the school year before the students rolled over to the next building. So the new IS was not able to access because of the 2 different buildings, but they were able to come in here. No, it was backwards. It was right after school started. The IS couldn't access the student anymore to change ownership, but they could come to their calendar, and because it was on their calendar, they could open up the document and change ownership that way. The other thing that I like about this is the list view. Right? The day in the week, not so much, but list view is nice because here it's going to show you, you know, here's July. then, you know, here's a couple things that are happening. Here's my August dates, here's my September dates. It breaks it up per month. So for you, you know, you might only have one or two things as an IS, but for admins, you know, they're going to see multiples and might have to attend multiple meetings. So this view is helpful for them. Okay. This stuff is automatically generated. It's not something that you have to add to the calendar. Every student within their profile has a documents tab, which is all of their documents, and the deadline. So, and this is what gets populated in the deadlines calendar. So then you can see here with my student Isaac, I can see, you know, what it is. So here's my parent invite, who it's assigned to. Notice right here on my deadlines, any incomplete documents do not populate. It does not calculate any dates from an incomplete document, only completed documents. So for example, if I look at my caseload, I'm looking at, Kylie. So if I look at Kylie, she doesn't have any deadlines. That's because if we look at her documents, nothing has been completed yet. As soon as I complete this document, it will populate those deadlines. Okay, so that's how it is generated. Okay, as we are looking, so now I'm going down to our student list. As I am looking at my students, now that the students are in the system, should have documents in the system, they should have populated their badges. So SE is for our special ed, our AL is our advanced learners for districts that are using the WEPs and the WAPs. Our 504 students, so again, poor Jonathan has everything attached to his name. And then nobody is using this for RIMS. I know a lot of districts are still using data map for their RIMS, but that would be your literacy. I have requested, because several districts are using this for English language learners, it does not populate a badge for EL students. So even if a document is complete, so you would actually have to, you know, either search for the student individually or filter by form. Right? So if you are using this for English language students, they do not get a badge. The other thing that you are going to see now that you have students in the system, you're going to see these deadline warnings. So of course we know red means something wrong, so stop, there's an overdue. Something is overdue in the system. So if I actually click on this, okay, or hover over it, it's going to show me that these are overdue. So if I click on more details, it is going to take me into that deadlines calendar for the students and show me what is going on. So it's going to show me, hey, here's my parent invite, it's overdue. If I click on it, okay, I can go to any of these sections. So if I want to say, well, how is this overdue? Let's look at the meeting date. It's going to take me right into that document, which I don't know why there's no date there. Okay. So the other one is our caution. So our yellow is just saying, hey, within 30 days, these documents are due. So it's going to populate the yellow. And I don't know if I'll see an orange one, but orange is up and coming, so it is within 10 days. So red is overdue, orange is within 10 days, yellow is 30 days. After 30 days, there's no warning. Yes?
Is it possible to filter by red, orange, yellow warnings?
That's a good question. And if you guys did not hear on Zoom, He asked if there's a way to filter by the warnings. There might be a report for admins, but I don't see anything for just
Okay.
ISs. I mean, I guess you could use the date range. Other than that, I don't see anything, but that is a good, let me write that down real quick. That's a good ER. Okay. Any other questions with kind of navigating and getting ready for your new school year? And again, please talk to your sped director to see if they want you to change ownership of the document. They might want you to stay as owner because you're the one that originally created that document versus changing the ownership. Okay, because it could always be shared with an IS, or depending on their access, they might have it. Okay, so just a few other things once we are in our documents and so forth. Oh, I know one of them, I have it. Oh, there she is, okay. So a few things that you might still see based on what access or what documents you have, because some of us, this might have been our first year in the system. Some of your students might have their ETRs as uploads because they have not expired yet, so the new one has not been written in the new system. So just be aware of that. You would see upload. In this case, this one's a WEP, but you would see it as ETR. Okay, so for some of the districts, that should be disappearing because this will be your third school year into the system. Again, those of you that are first year only, you'll probably see some of those ETRs as uploads. When we are working within the documents, so if I click on this document itself, do not forget you have the version history, especially if you are coming into a document and you want to see, when things were created and so forth. My version history is going to show me all of the documentation that has happened on that document. Okay, so if you want to say, okay, well, what happened right here? It's going to highlight that section so you know that that's when that was selected. So again, that's your version history, or if you want to see, before the amendment and what was amended, you can come in here, and this one has not been amended, but you would see amendments, and then you can look prior to that to see what it looked like before the amendment, if needed. And so don't forget about that. Also, don't forget about your gen ed teachers. I've been promoting to our districts to use the disability alert. So gen ed teachers can see that the student has documents in SameGoal. Not every district is using that yet. So don't forget about our gen ed people, because they're not just going to say, oh, let me log into SameGoal and check out, the student's IEP. They're not just going to do that on a whim. So make sure that you're using the IEP at a glance. So that will print out that IEP at a glance for them, so you can go through. Unfortunately, this is per student. I don't know a way to print them in bulk. So if you had like 10 students on your caseload, you're going to have to go into each one to print them. Okay. Since some of us have been in the system for a while, now might be the time to start updating, organizing, and getting those banked areas a little bit organized for the items that you use. So, for example, if I come in here, I have a bank item here, and then I have them organized. Okay, so if you're like, ooh, I want to start organizing mine because my lists are getting very long of goals or objectives that I'm using often. So if I click on edit, underneath advanced, anything under the word topic is the folder that you can create. So if you look here, I have, reading, comprehension, math, science. So whatever you put is in the topic area creates those areas. Be aware, okay? You have to spell everything the same. You can't just start typing like read and then the next time put reading because it's going to create two separate areas, okay? But then once I use that for my goal area, you can see I can have multiple goals in there. So in my reading, I have 4 different goals. So as long as I click on that advanced and I type in under the topic what I want it to be. If you decided you're like, okay, well, you know what? I have not been using this one at all. I want to get rid of this. So when you're working with that, if I click on my X, it's going to say, do you really want to remove this? So it'll give you your warning and you can remove that from your bank. Do not forget when you are creating a bank, your bracket name bracket, the square bracket is going to populate the student's name. And then use the male pronoun when you are creating the goal, and it will automatically switch it between male and female as needed. But when creating, use the male pronoun. Okay, so for example, like this one, I had he, and it will automatically convert as needed. I did have a district. So some of you, sometimes students' names are in all capital letters. So if you use this feature, it is pulling in how it is typed in student information. So I just had a district request to Frontline that all of their uppercase students get changed to like title case, how it should be, because when you're working with documents like this, it looks weird that Kylie's name is in all capital letters. So they decided to go to the regular title case for first name, last name. So just be aware of that. It is going to pull it however it looks in here. And then one last thing, and then I'll open it up to questions. When we are working on documents, so if where's my student? If I have a document that's still open, it needs to be completed in order to create my new document. Okay, so that's one thing. If I have my document completed and I'm ready to start the new IEP, so if I put a check mark there, and based on, again, your SPED director, what they allow, if you are allowed to copy to a new document, I can say copy to new. Notice it says that it will not bring over any dates, any signatures, and of course there's certain fields that it won't bring over. And then when I copy that document, I have the option to share it with the same people. So if it's the same team working with those students, if I'm moving from the middle school to the high school, it's going to be different people. So I'm not going to want to use that. And then it'll generate that new document. And so you can see it created that new one here. And then I can start working on it. If I copy to a new document, it's automatically going to star the new one, so then I can unstar the old. Remember, only one open document can be created. So depending on your district settings, if your district only allows you to see documents that you've created and you're trying to create a new IEP and one has already been created, not by you, by someone else, it won't allow you to create it, but you might not see it because you don't have access yet. Once your IEP is created, then you can create your progress reports as well. That'll populate all of the goals into your progress reports. Okay, I'm gonna open up the floor to questions or issues that you've seen throughout the year that you want to bring up and maybe discuss with the group. Yes.
Is there a way to print, I guess it would be an incomplete, I don't know what version, but without the watermark, like the void, is it void watermark?
It says, yeah, it says draft across it.
That is,
You would have to ask, what district are you?
Northwestern.
So, I thought Chris had that shut off.
Okay.
No, only admins can print without the watermark because it's an on-off feature that only admins can turn on and off.
Okay.
So unfortunately, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? And those online, if you have a question and want to unmute instead of trying to type it in, please feel free to do so. Anything else? Okay, quiet, big group.
Sally, can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Okay, so not important, but you mentioned the upper lowercase change. So if they have that done, would that just be an overnight update then into SameGoal?
Yes, and thank you for asking that. So that's a good point. So whether it is a name change, so we know sometimes students get adopted or, they take on a different name, maybe the change of case, maybe they've moved over the summer, and you want to update the IEP. When I am in the IEP, or any of the documents that populates the student's information, here is a button that says Update Student Parent Info. So it's not going to automatically update the document for you. You physically have to come in here to click on this. The only time this will not work is if 2 seconds before the meeting, mom goes and says, well, I just went to the board office and had our address changed. This is it, that's an overnight. So they'll change it in student information. It'll overnight, it will integrate into SameGoal, and then you can click on update. Can you manually override this in here? Yes. If you wanted to say drive, you can, okay? But whatever you put in here does not go back to student information. So if mom comes into your meeting and says, well, our address has changed, I want the document changed, you can change that, but they also have to change it at the board office or whoever changes that student profile so it reflects the correct address. SameGoal is not going to tell it, hey, there's an address change, okay? So just be aware of that. Yes, you can override it if you're trying to get the document signed and completed, but also make sure it has to be changed on the student information side. And I'm going to say one last thing because I know this has been an issue, and I don't know how many of you guys actually create the amendments or if your Fed director is creating the amendment. If you are creating an amendment for any of your documents, so if I need to amend this document, okay, when you amend it, do not uncheck what type of document it was. So if it was an initial, if it was an annual, those still need to be selected as well as the amendment, because it's saying we are amending the annual review or we are amending the initial, okay? So one of those still needs to be checked when you are amending. That's happened a lot, that everything gets unchecked, only the amendment, and then it throws an error. Okay. Anything else?
So you wouldn't need to click amendment on that, even though?
This doesn't actually amend it, so it has to be completed first
Okay,
in order for it to get amended.
okay.
So unfortunately, we have had some that just click here but never officially amend it.
Yes.
So then it doesn't and we'll talk about, are you staying for the next group? We're gonna talk about that, because then it doesn't populate the AIEP for
Right.
EMIS. So yes, so it has to be completed in order to amend. Any other questions?
Can you just go over one more time how you got like the deadlines, like month by month?
Oh,
Like you had
sure.
them all listed and it was like, January,
So
February
it
for
defaults,
all your students.
you're fine, it defaults to the week view here. So if I click up here in the upper right, then I can choose by month. So if I want to see everything by month. And again, this is only going to populate things that you have. So you have to be the owner of it in order to see. Or the list view is the one that I like, that shows everything at a glance. And again, it will show all of your information. It's not going to show everybody's. Where I'm in as an admin, that's why you're seeing all kinds of people. And unfortunately, this is the screen that doesn't allow you to print. But if I click on the student's name anywhere in here, so if I click on Zoe here, it's going to take me into her profile, to the deadlines, and show me, what is coming due and so forth. So every student has a deadlines tab. There just might not be anything in it, like for Harvey here, because nothing has been completed. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just missed the first part because my speaker was down. So is there a
Oh,
way,
that's fine.
is there a way to see just like my students in a list like that, or no? You have to be the owner.
Is it not populating any students? I think it has to either be shared with you, or you have to be the owner of it in order to see it in your deadlines calendar. But the student, no matter what, the student is going to have it listed on their profile.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if I go into a student specifically and click on their name, they will have their deadlines. It's not as pretty as the calendar, but it's for that individual student.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
So there's no way to print out your students and the deadline?
You individually as an IS, no, but admins have reports that have the deadlines. There's a whole report section that has deadlines. But yes, unfortunately, this deadlines calendar does not allow you to print. I've asked.
If I want to listen to the students and I want to print out the deadline.
Yes.
Can you print the screen?
You could probably do a print screen, yeah. Yeah, that would work. Anything else? Okay. Again, always ask your district sped director, make sure you're doing things properly to their protocol. I'm just going over the system. If you have issues, things aren't working, always check with them first, because if there's a glitch in the system, I send them mass emails so they would be aware of it. Then if that's not the issue, they will get in contact with me for support. Okay. And I know there's some of you that are very new to the system. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have issues. Those of you on Zoom, I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes. If you do have any